You are a guardian angel and designer, nigga. What the fuck is you talking about, my nigga? You are from the Bronx, bro. You are not from Harlem. Why do you keep thinking that you are from Harlem, bro? You are not from Harlem. I did not grow up with you, my nigga. I did not grow up with you. Contrary to what you believe, I did not grow up with you. You are from the Bronx. Did your grandmother live in Harlem? Yes. Did you come see her? Yes. Did I see you time to time? Yes. I did not grow up with you. You talk about dick ride now. That's what this old shit. I would have left it alone. I would have left the old shit alone. But listen, dick ride. Do you remember how we met, nigga? Pause. So not met. How you got cool with us? This is how this started. I want y'all to go Google Camron 1995 freestyle. Are you at any of these places? No, nigga. You was not there, man. You wasn't there, nigga.
The streets of Harlem have always been loud, unapologetic, and unforgiving. But nothing prepared the culture for the way Mase and Camron came after Jim Jones. This wasn't just another round of jokes on the podcast. This wasn't lighthearted banter between old friends. This was humiliation, broadcasted for the world to see. And the target, a man who once stood shoulder to shoulder with Harlem's most feared and most respected voices. For years, the Dipset legacy has been argued in barbershops, street corners, and music forums. But when two of Harlem's biggest legends decide to clown the one they claim begged his way in, that's not just a roast. That's a public trial. Camron didn't ease into it. He cut straight into Jim Jones' history, dragging up moments that most Harlem natives remembered but never expected to hear resurface on camera. He laughed about how Jim wasn't really there for the Children of the Corn freestyles. He questioned whether Jim was really Harlem's child or just Harlem's biggest fan. And then came the knockout line, "You weren't there." Those three words echoed heavier than a diss track. In Harlem, authenticity is everything. You can't buy it, you can't fake it, and once it's questioned, it's nearly impossible to recover. Mase doubled down with the kind of precision that only a Harlem preacher turned rapper could deliver. He claimed he literally taught Jim Jones how to rap. That Jim begged for a seat at the table after hearing their freestyles. He painted a picture of a man desperate to belong, a fan-turned-follower who latched onto the movement after it was already on fire. Two fans watching, it didn't feel like friendly fire. It felt like a Harlem courtroom where the verdict was already decided. And just when you thought the insults couldn't get harsher, Camron dropped one of the most humiliating stories of all. The night the streets whispered about Jim Jones running from the MF. According to Cam, when the crew pulled up, Jim sprinted straight to the sand, chased out toward the beach.
Mase need to go on a diet. He need to get his life together. He need to go to the doctor and get a physical. He looked terrible, bad body, back ass. He look big around the neck, waist look crazy. I'm body shaming this. You heard? He need to go get his shit together, get on the treadmill, do some push-ups, do something. You heard? Especially for playing with me. He gonna need it. You dig?
He taught you how to rap. You'll say it. Matter of fact, bring up the clip.
Mase helped me actually learn how to rap.
Mase taught me how to rap. Mase actually showed me, he was the first person to show me how to rap. Mase actually sat me down and showed me the magic to rap.
We taught you how to rap, nigga. How you ran the whole organization. How you made Diplomat. Nigga, you ain't make none of this stuff. You was a fan. I put you down.
The visual alone was enough to make social media explode. The image of the so-called capo of Dipset, the muscle, the bloodline of the crew, running in the sand like prey being hunted down. Harlem doesn't forgive weakness, and Cam knew that story would stick like glue. The roast wasn't just about past moments, though. Jim Jones didn't hold back either. He clapped back by attacking Mase's appearance, body shaming him, telling him to hit the treadmill and get his life together. He reminded the world that he wasn't just some hanger-on, that he took on the role of protecting the diplomats when no one else would. Jim called himself the CEO, the muscle, the backbone. But instead of looking powerful, the insults landed like deflections. Because for every joke Jim threw, Mase and Camron had a story, a receipt, a memory that dug deeper into the cracks of his image. It became more than a roast. It turned into a Harlem intervention. They questioned his loyalty. They questioned his authenticity. They called him a fan in front of millions. And worst of all, they laughed while doing it. Nothing hurts more in Harlem than when your peers, the very men you stood with, mock your foundation. For Jim Jones, it wasn't just words, it was a public stripping of identity. Fans watched with jaws dropped. Clips went viral. The internet replayed Cam's BMF beach story over and over, memming it, remixing it, laughing at it. Harlem pride turned into Harlem shame, and the one man caught in the crossfire was Jim. Every retweet, Every Instagram comment felt like another stab. You could almost feel Jim's blood pressure rising through the screen. And yet, in the middle of the chaos, there was an unspoken truth. Beneath the insults, beneath the roast, lay a rivalry years in the making. Harlem's children, Mase, Cam, Jim, had once been brothers in hustle, soldiers in music. But fame changes everything. Success creates distance. And when Cam and Mase stood side by side against Jim, it wasn't just about freestyles or rap lessons. It was about legacy. It was about rewriting the story of Dipset and who deserved the crown. But here's where the tension thickens. Harlem doesn't run from beef, it feeds on it. And fans knew one thing for sure: if Jim Jones was humiliated this loud, in front of this many people, there was no way he was going to stay silent. He's capo for a reason. He's a fighter, the survivor, the man who turned pain into records. But could even Jim recover from being painted as a fanboy of Dipset? The roast had ended, the laughs had faded, but the questions were louder than ever. Was Jim Jones truly the backbone of Dipset? Or just the shadow behind Camron? Did Mase really build him up, only for him to rewrite history? Or was this just Harlem legends recycling old wounds for entertainment, leaving one man's reputation in ashes? As fans debated, one thing was certain: the damage was done. Harlem had turned on Jim, at least for the moment, and while Cam and Mase laughed together, Jim was left staring down the weight of humiliation heavier than any diss track could deliver. Because in Harlem, respect isn't given, it's taken. And if Jim wanted his back, he was going to have to fight for it. But the million-dollar question? They thought Jim Jones would stay silent. They thought he'd take the humiliation, swallow the pain, and keep it moving. But anyone who knows Jim knows one thing: Capo never sits quiet when his name is dragged through the dirt. And after the storm that Mase and Camron unleashed, Jim stepped forward with the weight of Harlem pride on his shoulders. Jim's defense wasn't loud at first, it was steady, almost calm. He reminded everyone who he really was. There would be no Dipset without Jim, he said. And he wasn't exaggerating. For years, Jim wasn't the flashy one, he wasn't the lyrical preacher. And he wasn't the slick hustler with punchlines. He was the muscle. The one who made sure that when Camron stepped into rooms, he wasn't robbed or embarrassed. The one who stood frontline when trouble came knocking. He wasn't just another rapper in the crew. He was the insurance policy. Harlem knew it. The streets respected it. And Jim wasn't about to let old friends erase that. But here's the thing about Harlem loyalty. It's complicated. Camron might have been the artist, the visionary, the one with the microphone in hand. But when Ballin hit, it was Jim Jones who carried Dipset into a new era. That anthem wasn't just a record. It was a movement. Suddenly, Jim wasn't standing behind Cam anymore. He wasn't just a side soldier. He was in the front, basking in the glow of success that even Cam couldn't ignore. And that's where the fracture started. Insiders whispered about the tension for years. Camron couldn't stomach the idea of Jim becoming bigger than him. And Jim, tired of being painted as a background muscle, embraced his shine. What started as brotherhood began to look like competition. Harlem wasn't watching a team anymore. It was watching a power struggle. And when Mase stepped back into the picture, siding with Cam, the brotherhood snapped. Jim fired back not just with words, but with truth. He pointed out that he never needed to claim Harlem. Harlem already knew him. He was outside. He was in the trenches. He was living the life that the music only painted. When Cam and Mase laughed about him not being there, Jim reminded everyone that he was there, just not in the ways that made for funny stories. He wasn't spitting freestyles on clue tapes. He was protecting the brand in ways that don't get talked about until years later. And yet, even as he spoke, fans could feel the hurt beneath the defense. For a man who always stood tall, Jim looked smaller under the weight of the roast. Every word felt less like confidence and more like a man trying to stitch wounds, ripped open in public. Because the reality is, Harlem doesn't care about how much you say you did. Harlem cares about who co-signs it. And when two Harlem giants stand together against you, the city listens. Social media turned into a war zone. Twitter spaces lit up with debates. Who really made Dipset? Instagram clips replay Cam's BMF beach story on a loop, while Jim's defenders posted pictures of him with the crew, reminding people that loyalty runs deeper than jokes. TikTok edits showed split screens of Jim performing Ballin next to Cam, and Mase laughing on set. Harlem was divided in real time, and the world was eating it up. The deeper truth is this: what Mase and Camron did wasn't just about old stories. It was about control of narrative. History is written by the loudest voices, and right now, Jim's voice was being drowned out by laughter. Cam painted him as a fan. Mase painted him as a student. And no matter how many times Jim said he was a backbone, the muscle, the CEO, the echoes of "you wasn't there" hit harder. Still, Jim refused to fold. He reminded everyone that while Cam was chasing hits, and Mase was stepping in and out of the church, he was the one holding down the streets. He was the one connecting Dipset to the gangs, to the culture, to the raw authenticity that made the crew respected. Without Jim, Dipset would have been vulnerable. Without Jim, the streets wouldn't have backed them. That was his truth, and he said aloud. But Harlem has a cruel way of turning truth into spectacle. The more Jim defended himself, the more fans replayed the roast. The more he insisted he was a capo, the more people replayed camps saying he ran from EMF. It wasn't fair, but it was Harlem reality. Once a crowd smells blood, they want a show. And in this case, the show was Jim fighting for his reputation while the world laughed. By the weekend, Harlem felt like it had split into two camps. On one side were the Cam and Mase loyalists, doubling down on the roast, calling Jim a fan who lucked into greatness. On the other side were Jim's defenders, pointing out that without his muscle, Dipset wouldn't have survived the streets long enough to become legends. It was more than a beef now. It was a Harlem civil war. And the question hanging in the air was simple. Who wins when brothers turn enemies? Does Harlem side with the legends who make them laugh? Or the soldier who always stood on the front lines? Because if there's one thing Harlem knows, it's this: pride is deadly. And in this battle, pride was already bleeding. So where does that leave Jim Jones? Cornered, wounded, but not defeated. The humiliation stung, the laughter echoed. But Jim has never been the type to bow out. If anything, Harlem expects him to come back louder, stronger, ready to remind everyone why they once called him capo. But here's the danger: every word, every move from this point on could either rebuild his legacy or bury it. And with Harlem watching, the next chapter could decide the future of Dipset's history forever.